and welcome to the Revenue Insights podcast. Today, I'm joined by Leore Spira, Head of Revenue Operations at Buildos. She has over 10 years of experience driving revenue growth, and she's also the co-founder and community leader of The Optimizers, a hub for BizOps and RevOps leaders. Leore, it's wonderful to have you join me.
It's great to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
No problem at all. I want to dive in first, I kind of mentioned it in the intro. You've got so much experience across tech and B2B SaaS. What is your story?
Oh, that's a great question. So, actually, I studied law. I think more than 15 years ago. I thought I'm going to be a lawyer. Actually, this was my father's dream. But somewhere along the way, I really enjoyed the degree, and law studies and all the courses and stuff. But eventually, I guess I wanted to be more creative and innovative, and I was kind of drawn to other professions. So after I passed my bar exam here in Israel, I've decided to change my career path, break my parents' heart. And actually I started working at a nonprofit organization of youth in distress, and as part of the marketing team and the donation department. And this is where I was introduced to Salesforce, actually, CRM for the first time. And if we calculated, more than 10 years ago, Salesforce and all technology looked like so much different than what we see or have today. So it was a whole new world, but marketing was very familiar, and everybody wanted to be either marketing or sales. And somehow I think I got drawn into also processes, strategy, driving efficiency, see how I can support teams internally and make sure we're all working together and learning from one another. And then I started my graduate studies, government strategy and marketing. And I was introduced to the strategy world and, how to look at things differently, how to use my soft skills as a lawyer, negotiation and organization and time consuming, stuff like that. And eventually, I think combining all of that together, I was very drawn to the what they had 9 years ago was more of a sales and marketing operations. We didn't have revenue operations, and I think that was new as well. Usually in American corporates or very 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 large companies, and I transitioned again to the technology domain, joined an American corporate, and I was part of the marketing team, but also somehow I managed to be part of also the supporting sales team, similar to sales operations, and I was working closely with the sales and analyst operations teams, and I think since then, I was I fell in love with systems. I fell in love with data. I fell in love with the decision-making process based on data, with the business analysis. My first CEO, she took me, I think, under her wing. I didn't understand it back then. But today, when I look backwards, remember the time there, she managed or even wanted to teach me everything. So I was part of the budget meetings, the financial discussion, understanding Salesforce, understanding not just even Salesforce, CRM, understanding how sales and marketing work together. We didn't have customer success, for example, back then. But along the way, when I then transitioned to other different Israeli startups, and sales operations became more of a sales and marketing operations. Then I founded and established 3 departments in 3 different companies and built everything from scratch. Then sales and marketing operations became revenue operations because I guess the discussion moved forward to not just the sales process or the marketing process or the lead to cash process, but also now we started speaking about the buyer or customer journey, about holistic processes, about, breaking the silos. And through COVID, it became more and more and more attractive and interesting discussion. So I guess, I don't know if this answers your question, but if you asked me today if I thought I would be where I am right now, no clue. I didn't even know that there is such thing like sales operations. So, yeah.
I love that you've gone on the journey from, training to be a lawyer, went into go and do something more creative, and then arguably have gone to do something that is perhaps, in my experience, one of the lesser creative things that you can do. Although, to be fair, and I know you're going to argue this point, right? I suppose it was like systems designing and stuff like that allows you to be creative, right?
Exactly. So I think that's what's beautiful in revenue operations, actually, that you can see the digital transformation that today, information systems departments are no longer exist, or if they do, they are part of revenue operations or some kind of operations department, because you cannot separate between the two. Strategy and technology, strategy, process, data, and technology became one discussion. You cannot work on a process, then send it or forward it to an information system department, let them design what they think they see from my process or what we have formulated, then implement it in the system. We all have to work together. And now you can see also this transformation within revenue operations, or why revenue operations actually arise, especially during COVID, when we worked at home, nobody spoke to one another, sometimes no communication. You could not work in silos. You had, I think companies started to realize that you need someone to be responsible, to be the owner of all of these things, because eventually you need, you can be so much innovative and creative in building a process, in understanding the go-to-market needs, their problem, their issue, then leadership and also management. And then you need to go take all of this information, build a process that would not just generate data, but also be scalable. And you can actually, have some business insights that can affect the decision-making process. So you are part of not just the company strategy, you are part of helping management and leadership with your creative and with the innovation that we bring, with what we see or how we think, to help them be better, be more efficient, be more productive, and actually scale and build a growing revenue machine.
So something that I'm really keen to dig into a little bit more, I mean, you talked a lot there around, a lot of the differences, particularly in the sales process, even down to the finer details. So could you perhaps give a bit more, elaborate, in fact, a bit more on perhaps the biggest challenge that you've overcome so far and how you did it?
So first of all, I think a BuildOut's challenge and the opportunity was quite different and very exciting, because comparing to different companies, this was my third time for establishing a revenue operations department and building it from scratch. But here at BuildOuts, I joined really at a really, really, really early stage, when the company was only 3 year old, and after only raising the first funds of round A. So, and usually you can see in Israel, especially in Israel, by the way, you don't see revenue operations at such early stage. Even a previous company I joined when the company was 5-6 year old, and they had a marketing and sales department, or at least, if not a fully hired departments, but departments that worked and had at least between 4 to 5 or 6 million ARR. and customer success team, or at least, a small team that grew and we scaled together. But here we came, I think, became sales, marketing, and customer success together. So I was brought to the company, at a very, very early stage to build the infrastructure, not just, before building, to work on the processes, to write them down, to have discussions with the team and understand how we want to measure ourselves, at least at the beginning, like what our investors want to see, and then bring the technology, and then bring the infrastructure, and implement the processes, and hire the teams, and they were all hired together. So from 2-3 users or teammates and colleagues, we became like almost 55 in less than a year. So you have to make sure also that when you build the processes and the infrastructure in the CRM in Salesforce, or or you build a tech stack for the departments, and then you need to understand also the data points that are very, very important. Again, we are at a very early stage, but we managed to do that. And I guess, so if you ask me about the sales process, our sales process is, it looks like it's very, very simple, but very unique, because what we're learning is that every sales deal is very, very different from the other. You don't see, you don't have similarity between the stakeholders, between the personas, between the, how the process itself should be. Same with stages and probabilities that we're all familiar with. And for me, it's a great challenge, because it's not a traditional SaaS process. I don't have retention because we are working project by project. So because it's real estate, right? It's construction. When a project starts, it ends, and then you have to think on the next one. But sometimes there is no next one. So what would be the definition for churn? What would be the definition of success? What would be the definition for customer? What is an ideal customer profile? How do we land and expand? How do we measure this? How do we bring the KPIs? How do we measure onboarding? Because these are not tech savvy people, and our users, like they have to also be trained, not just, with our, by using the platform, but also they need to be trained by the team. So from customer success, we are sometimes also implementation and delivery departments. So we have to make sure that, and we are coming on site to show them how to use technology. And then for me, as revenue operations, I need to think about, okay, so how do I help them see everything, create a 360 customer overview, understand exactly how the customer journey actually works, help them and help sales, to alert everyone within BuildOts when we have an expansion. And what do we call expansion? So we have a lot of definitions that we need to decide or understand and see from a strategy point of view what works for us and what not. And since again, churn is not the regular churn that you know about, that you see at SaaS companies, and you have to understand exactly how to see it, or how to alert when an account is at risk and a customer is at risk. But is this a customer? How do we treat it? Like it's a POV, things like that. So I think the great challenge here is that it's like we use the SaaS terminology. We have similar lingo. We have the SQL, we have the MQL, we have LTV, we have TCV, we have land and expand. So we have expansion, and we have churn, but it's very, very different in our point of view. And I guess we learn this thing, and we also, we are sharpening our definitions based on the behavior and what we see, or the relationship that we build with our prospects and customers.
I would love to see the documentation that goes with all these definitions. That literally, it's like almost talking in a different language, right? Something you said that I think with so much of it, and appreciate with the stage that you guys are at, is very much of getting those foundations in place and the definitions. But with it, with how different the sales process is and like the personas, how from a revenue operations perspective, how do you spot the trends? How do you spot, the things that are working that, we need to do more of this, and how do you, and also the things that aren't working to do less of that when it is so diverse between every deal?
That's a great question, and I think this is where we stand right now. So we managed to build to build everything, or at least to make sure that some of our foundations in the process are working. So I can say that in Q2 we had a lot of data, something that I didn't. I wasn't ready for it because I thought we are not there yet. Like, we have so many things and everything is so new, and I was not even 1 year at the company. So how can we move, or I move from as a revenue, even if as an experienced revenue operations, it's when you run fast and you need to grow, and you grow fast, and you need to provide and find solutions rapidly, when sometimes the platform doesn't allow you to do that. I was surprised to see that we have a lot of data. We do, but now we are trying to understand, and I think the data helps us, from a business point of view, to understand more of the behavior of our process, like understand where deals are getting stuck. Which is, maybe we don't know exactly what is the perfect stakeholder recipe, to support the sales team, or even help the SDRs and BDRs to approach or bring to the table for a demo session. But we did see like a very, very, very unique and interesting behavior, with the opportunity, and how the deal is moving forward in the pipeline, where it gets stuck, and why. And and in SaaS companies, sometimes most of the deals are getting stuck at the beginning because we are converting leads into an opportunity. Then the prospect is either ghosting, or they're not ready, or they wanted to hear more about the product, but maybe this is not a good timing, or they're not the decision maker or the authority to actually decide on if the company can pay for this solution or solve a pain or a need that they have. But here what we can see is it's getting stuck actually, when the opportunity is moving forward. So sometimes they really they understand that technology can help them. They understand that that the world is going to this, the world is part of digital transformation. Construction is starting to be part of this as well. But sometimes you need to convince them more, why they should replace their traditional methods when they work with a very expensive solution that they don't know if they would bring them ROI or not. So, or maybe usually they don't trust technology because it's working with Excel. So why do we need something like how technology will, we are efficient, we are building, they're building projects, usually they're done, they're still standing for years and many, many years. People it's either residential projects or commercial, so it's there. So how technology will save them, more money, save them money, or hasten the process. But Yeah, so we've discovered that in the sales process. And also we discovered that it's very, very hard to land and expand. So it's very hard, like we can succeed in a process, but now we need to convince them to keep using build-outs. And sometimes, in constructions, you can start with one team, but then the next one at the same company is a completely different team. And you need to convince them, again, why build-out is good for their project, because it's a huge construction company. So, yeah, it's a great challenge.
This is a great segue because I was reading one of your blogs beforehand talking about customer loyalty and the role of revenue operations in order to actually, build on that and actually reinforce that loyalty. So what would you say is your approach to actually, through revenue operations, actually generating that and also, retaining those customers as well?
Wow, that's a very, very good question.
That's a loaded question. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I guess, revenue operations is very similar to our personas. They are not revenue operations, but they're operational people. So they're not doing revenue operations on a daily basis, but they manage operational projects, and they are in our personas or operations. So, and build-outs, eventually, the platform is very similar, and the solution that we're offering is very similar to the technology that I use to collect the data, analyze it, and then alert. So I guess at some point, if I'm measuring our internal customer journey, and I'm helping the team, get transparency about specific milestones, or connect the dots, between one milestone to the other, and have a seamless handshake, and eventually, support and get more insights about how, if we are succeeding or not, and if not, why. Understand exactly why. I guess the same is with our customers, that our platforms give them a 360 overview on their projects, and the messaging is it's similar. And I guess if we go back to the previous question, for me, being a build-out, it's not just the product; it also, the messaging, and it also I could feel it helped me to be more related and feel in a safe zone than other companies, because it's SaaS. Yeah, the technology can be amazing and great, and I've been to such companies, and we support revolution, and we bring innovation to sectors that already exist, and we have competition. But here it's like we don't really have a competition. And we are trying to be better at what we do, and we are trying to penetrate in industries that is very traditional and very, very hard to get through, and actually, send a message and explain why they need build-outs. And it's not just because we want to sell them, it's because you really need it. Like, we can save you a lot of time, but you don't know how. Like, we're still trying to figure out what is the best way to do so. If it's through digital channels, or traditional and offline events, or, have sales meetings face to face, because Zoom sometimes can be very, very, very difficult for them, because they're in the site all day, every day. So for me, as a revenue as an operation person who's been doing that for almost 9 years or even more, I somehow I understand, and it's, even for me, to build a process, it's easier for me to connect even with our users, because our sales reps and our CSMs are coming from the construction companies. So they never met Salesforce, they never met dialers. They never met marketing automation tools. They never knew that we can work with a system that can help us, even prepare our QBR's presentation. So when they have their user experience working with me and asking, for me to add even a feature for reminder tasks that they have, not just the regular one that the system or the CRM offers, but more of a sophisticated, because it will help them to be more efficient on their day-to-day, then I understand that this is how they used to work in their site or in their previous companies, and they didn't have it, so they had to manage in so many different ways. So
I love it. So not only are you educating the market, but you're literally having to educate everyone, coming from that market into BuildDots as well. And I suppose this to touch on a point that you made previously, with regards to like product-led growth, and you guys are obviously like feeling your way into the market at the minute. Do you find that you're taking more of a customer-led growth approach to that, in the sense of, I suppose, in educating, demonstrating the value from the customers that you've already got, or are you taking a different approach to it?
No, I think different approach. Even with PLG, it's I understand this strategy, and I know that some companies are they're pushing to implement it and to make sure that their solution is transformed into that. But I think sometimes it's very very hard to do so. It's not everything can really be plug and play. Especially with companies, especially when you pay a lot and you invest a lot of money in a solution that can solve your pain. For BuildDots, maybe, in the future, but right now, we are educating the market. So we're educating the market not just by messaging and raising the awareness, but also having a team that teach them and building adoption plans for the users to learn how to use the platform, how to use the solution. Again, the best way they can, because we want to show them the ROI and we want to succeed in the project, and we want to make sure that they keep using BuildDots in other projects, so to land and expand. So it's very, again, since most of them are not tech savvy, and they don't even, they are now, you can see them on LinkedIn, which is nice, but most of them are not there, even there. So it's a very, very, very high maintenance and time consuming projects. And this is what nice, because for me as revenue operations, we can measure everything. So we can measure the onboarding process. We can measure the implementation cycle. We can measure and understand so much from the even platform setup and from our customers' behavior. So eventually, even managing and building a module of customer health and alert the stakeholders internally if our customers are at risk, it would be much more impactful and will have so much. It would be, comparing to SaaS companies, it will be so important to understand why a customer at risk, because you can learn a lot from it. So in SaaS companies, for example, in my previous company, when a customer was at risk, it was, usually the use case would be similar. It was either we couldn't show them ROI because the data was no good, because it depends on the industry, right? But the performance of the product was no good, or we didn't exceed the expectations that were set. When we sign the contract, or it became just too much expensive for their monthly or yearly budget, which is, it's reasonable, right? Here, it's like you need to prove so much more, and you build, and the relationship with our customers, like, is so much more important than, because you have to be in touch with them on a, sometimes not on a weekly basis, but also a daily basis. So it's very, 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 very different from SaaS companies when you can speak with them, every quarter. You have a very formulated onboarding process. You know exactly when it starts, when it ends. Then you have the handshake with customer success or support, where it depends also if you have a dedicated customer success manager. And, and then you run, and then before renewal, you just get an email and say, hi, this is time for renewal. Here, it's not like that. Like, you have to build and manage the relationship through the whole project, to not just show them the value, but also explain to them why they need this technology, to show them and support them in why this helps them to be more productive and efficient, how visibility can help them manage their internal relationship within the project itself. So it's very similar to what I do internally here at BuildOts.
I love that. I want to pull us out a little bit. We've talked a lot about BuildOts, and I've got a couple more questions. I know you're really active in the community. You obviously run the optimizers as well. Something that I wanted to ask, and it's a really general question, but I know that literally every RevOps person that I speak to is a problem solver. So I'm curious to know what from your perspective, what is the secret to problem solving?
What is the secret? I guess first you need to remove the thought in your mind that you are not a lonely wolf anymore in the company. You are not, and this is what I'm telling myself every day. You are not a one-woman show. You deserve a team. You deserve colleagues who works with you, and you need to say no. So if you want to solve a problem, that's amazing. You can be creative. You can be innovative. You can listen. You can speak. You can have, you can bring everyone to the table. That's amazing. But you have to be strong and say no, because you need to think on a higher level and think of the organization, because eventually the success of revenue operations is the success of the company. Comparing to what we had back then as sales operations, marketing operations, and CS operations, which is new as well. So, because if you are committed to the company, then the company's success is our success, and you have to say no, and you have to prioritize the project. And if you want to solve a problem, you cannot first of all, you cannot do everything. So you need to ask for a team. You need to ask for a budget. You need to ask questions, and you need to understand what is the need. You want to solve the problem, you will solve it. But if you don't, if one of the team members wants something, but then you understand that, and by the way, I had a scenario like this last week. I wanted to solve a problem. And one of the sales managers approached me, and he offered something. He said, yes, we agreed. We want to do something, and we want to do this, and this. And I said, fine, are you sure? I don't think it's a great solution, but if we will need to fix it, it will be manageable. And then we had to fix it a day after, because he didn't say you need to ask questions. You need to understand exactly what they want to do. They need to understand exactly what is the pain. And saying no is the most powerful, I think for RevOps, by the way, it's the most powerful ingredient that we must have to make sure that everything works.
I think it definitely applies to RevOps, but even more broadly as well. I think I seem to remember hearing a bit of advice of just say yes to everything. You'll see where you will never know where it takes you. And the more and more I've gone down my career, the more I've realised no, you actually have to learn to say no. So I completely agree. Final question: what is the one book that you would recommend to other revenue operations leaders? And that could be fiction, could be non-fiction. What I love with this is the diversity that I get back when I ask this to RevOps leaders. So I'm intrigued to know what yours would be.
What do you mean by that? Like as a method, as a behavior, as like how they should.
However you want to approach it. It could be. We've had
No. I sign.
Like tradition.
I don't
go for it.
I have an answer for it. We are Supermans or Superwomans. We are. I think that, and every day I manage this in like we are the CIA agents that when they need us to pull up the gun and go and and now we're saving the world. This is what we do. We're never appreciated for that. We're never, nobody said, like, it would be very, very rare if someone would say a good word about what we did or how we just saved the day. But I think that this is what we are. Like, we are the secret agents that we are, if we are not, usually we're, we're selfless and no ego. We have no ego approach because eventually we want everyone to succeed because if they're succeeding, then we are like, it's our success as well. So no ego approach, but it's like we are agents and we are planting ideas and planting, processes in other departments. And then we come with our costume, super like we're saving the day. We see the Batman, they have data issues and then they message us like everything is broken. And I love this. Salesforce doesn't work. I love this. Salesforce doesn't work. And then we see, the Batman sign on the sky. And then we come and then in 2 minutes we fix it. And then you get the answer like, what did you do? What happened? Oh my God, it's working right now. Thank you so much. So
revenue operations, the unsung heroes of businesses, really. I love it. You took it in the best direction I could have hoped for. Okay, Leore, let's move to wrap up. I want to give you one final opportunity. As I mentioned, I know you blog, you podcast, you've got your own community as well. To the listeners at home and in their cars, where can they find you online and where can they find your community?
So our community right now is on Facebook, but it's a Hebrew-speaking community. But I'm working on creating a hub on LinkedIn as well. You can always find me on LinkedIn. You can follow me. You can connect with me. I love, having these kind of conversations, not just podcasts, but like I'm trying to schedule at least 1 or 2 30 minutes talk every week, to learn from others and hear about their best practice or practices actually or even dilemmas. I'm also, my blog is on Medium and I'm trying to, and I don't know, I'm trying to raise the awareness ever. So I guess at some point you would find me somewhere. And if you're in Tel Aviv, Israel, you can always come to ping me and we can have a coffee or a glass of wine around. So I'm very open to that. And I'm really, it's like very exciting to meet revenue operations leaders, even beginners or juniors who wants to move forward or transition into this position. I guess in 3 to 5 years, we will see more and more revenue operations leaders, hopefully. But I can sense it. But yeah, connect me on LinkedIn and we'll go there from there.
Amazing. So we'll put the links to your LinkedIn, the Facebook page, your blog, everything down in the show notes below. And Leore, I want to hear if someone takes you up on that offer, because if they don't, I'm going to come over to Tel Aviv and have a wine with you. So
With pleasure, with pleasure. Everyone is invited.
amazing. Right. Leore, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us again. And thank you to the audience for listening to us. We'll be back again next week.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was a truly pleasure. And I hope to see everyone, on LinkedIn or even in Tel Aviv.
Pleasure was all mine. Thank you.
Bye-bye.